All right, if you are here, you are on the Barnum Financial Group careers page. We're so happy to have you here. This is a video series talking about what is unique and different about Barnum Financial Group, why Barnum is one of the #1 firms in the entire industry to work for if you are a financial advisor. At Barnum, we have extremely high retention rates on both the advisor side and on our infrastructure side, and this series is dedicated about telling you why. Here with me to talk all things Barnum is, of course, our CEO and founder, Paul Blanco.
Thank you. Well, I'm happy to be here today.
Of course. So we are going to talk today about 3 specific areas of Barnum. We are going to talk about the resources that we have here. We're going to talk about culture and what makes Barnum's culture unique and different. And then we're going to breeze into kind of our compensation philosophy and how we think about the comp plans here. Let's move on to talk about culture at Barnum Financial Group, because culture is a really big piece of why advisors stay or leave a current firm that they're in. Culture is a little bit sneaky. Culture is something that maybe you don't think about too often until you don't have it. So being at Barnum for 20 years, I can say that we as a firm, and we can credit Paul and Mindee Blanco for this, focus a lot of time and attention on our culture here, building and strengthening our culture. And Paul's going to talk about why we do that and what type of work we do to make sure we remain in a position of strength there.
Well, let's start from the beginning, right? So Mindee and I came up here in 93. Mm-hmm. We did not, move from Brooklyn, didn't know a soul, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is my background was always as an athlete. And I played a lot of individual sports, but the bulk of the sports I played, teams, including in college, were team sports, yeah, right? And when you had your best teams, you were like brothers and you were like family to each other. So growing up in Brooklyn, where our doors were open and we lived in neighborhoods where everyone just came in and you really had each other's back like a family did. When we got here, not knowing a soul, our #1 goal was this was becoming our family. And so how do you create an environment that, I guess the big word is there's a standard, that you could have those relationships that are close-knit, that you have each other's back, but it didn't stop the standard. And if you think about raising children, you're going to love the children to death. But there's a standard. You have to get good grades. You have to not drink and drive. You have to, those aren't, they're standards that you create.
They're non-negotiable.
They're not, you create them in your household. So we kind of did the same thing here. We want to protect and help them grow. But at the same time, we want them to know that Barnum, and I've heard this from so many people that have went through really challenging times in their lives, that they said this place was a safe haven for them where they can come, they feel like they're at home, there's people around them that care about them. And that, so the first thing was that, right? Creating that. The next one, let's build on the standard. Nothing's for nothing. So when you think of the vision and the goal, the only way we can get to that vision that I laid out, today it's to be $1 billion business, is the people want to grow. So when you think of Barnum, it's truly a growth business. FAs, you don't just wake up and say, I'm going to grow. And when you grow, that creates a lot of other challenges that come with it, right? But we don't even, so I get this question all the time about growth. What do you, I use Vince Lombardi on this one. I say this very frequently. They went to Vince Lombardi when he was the coach of the Green Bay Packers, winning the Super Bowls and creating this best team. And they said, what's the secret? How do you create such great football players? And he stopped them and he said, I don't create great football players. I create great men. And so that, I heard that so many times. And then when I got into business, it truly resonated with me that in an industry that's highly competitive, that's regulated, if you have a standard and you create great people, personally and professionally, that are well-rounded, that want to grow in all aspects of life, business then grows. So you then unbundle that with a family, close-knit, safe haven. Then you put a growth mindset on people that know that they don't have to grow by themselves. They can grow with someone. The other thing is, when you think about those things and you think about people being in sales, you think of competition. Of course, there's competition here. There's an award banquet every year. There's different awards that people are striving for. But we created an environment that it's, how do I explain it? It's almost like being on a team. You're competing with each other.
It's a healthy competition.
Yeah, in the sense that, like, I play center field, you play shortstop. We both want to get great hits. We both want to make all conference, but we want to win.
There's a lot of sharing between advisors.
You got
I
it.
run several best practice calls, and advisors are very open with their struggles. Some things are struggling with that they need help with, and advisors are very comfortable and can confidently share, here's my script, here's the email I use, here's the verbiage I use.
And back to the being intentional about it,
Yeah.
I was very calculated to say to them from day one that if you grow and you share, then I have more dollars and cents to invest to make the place bigger. So no one has a corner on the best idea here at Barnum. It's all shared. In fact, they would come to me, and we do a lot of sharing in the industry. And people would come to me and say, should I share everything? And I'm like, please do. You know, we could do a whole nother segment on the industry, but the industry's struggling in some areas. And I think the more we can share to help, the better it is for all of us.
Well, I think part of the culture is like quiet norms, right? Just accepted norms. And a norm around here is to have an abundance mentality.
Correct.
Right? There's no limit on potential. There's no limit on the amount of business we could do. Correct. All of those things are unlimited here.
Yes.
So getting people away from a scarcity mentality and into an abundance mentality.
Yeah, and if you think of Simon Sinek's book, right, Infinite Games, you're right. It's infinite. So I always, and I also feel like advisors, when they share what they're doing, they get better at their craft.
Yes.
So I've done the same thing, and it's worked. So if you start to put competition, healthy competition, as you said, family, safe haven, and then a standard around it, all of a sudden you have this amazing culture. And I remember this so vividly. And I guess you could put it as part of culture when you're close-knit, but I remember going to an industry meeting in like 2001 or two, and one of these managers won this huge award, and he got up on stage and he did his speech and all that good stuff. And then the curtain opened and there was like 30 people up there, and they were all people from his firm. And when they introduced them, how many people were married to each other? How many people were brother, sister? And I said, I want to have a culture like that. And that's where we got to. So once again, it's a culture that, the other thing, it's fast paced, right?
That's what I was waiting for you to say.
Yeah.
It's a hustler mentality too.
It is. And I have to say this, and this isn't a hit on Fairfield County, right? When I first came here, like 32 years ago, it was slower here.
Came here from Brooklyn.
Yeah, from Brooklyn. It was slower. Like, I'd go to the supermarket and I'd be like, all right, come on, put the stuff in my bag. Like, I got to go. I go to this thing. And today, it's very different here. It's very similar to a New York mentality, but Mindee and I brought that to Barnum. Like, we move fast. We grew up I think the pace was different. And I'm really big on that. And I think that's inspiring, and our advisors are like that, and our staff.
Yeah, everybody has that mentality.
Yeah, there's a fast-paced mentality, and it wasn't like that when I first got here.
Which is also different, because that means we execute really fast. So when you're talking about executing a CRM, that was an overnight decision that you said, I'm committing to this, and we're going to do it, and we did it. You committed and said, I'm going to build a marketing firm, and we started with one part-time person back in the day to 11 full-time people now. You commit and you act. That seems to be how a lot of execution gets done, and kind of a staple to our culture.
Well, for all the entrepreneurs listening to this, I've been doing this for 30 plus years, where every day I drive to work, no matter where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
I think ABC consulting firm hired me, Paul Blanco, to look at Barnum every day to say, what can I do to make Barnum better? And then when I leave and go home, the last thing I say in the car to myself is, did Paul Blanco earn his keep today, and what did he do to make Barnum better? So when you have that attitude, you're looking. So I'm not just, how do I explain this? I'm not just coming up with this stuff every day. I'm looking for stuff each day to move the needle so I could accomplish, and we use a mentality here called stacking. If you stack one thing on top of the next, on top of the next, and then you don't violate the first thing you did, you all of a sudden get great results over time, and you get that snowball on the big mountain.
Yep. One more point, and then we'll switch gears. Family. Yep. We promote a lot of family time, right?
Yes.
We think of your Barnum family, of course, but how important a work-life balance is and how important your external family is, whatever that looks like to you. But that's a really big deal here. There's a lot of togetherness.
Yes. Well, let's think about that for a second. When you think of our industry, and you think mostly on the FA side, I would say that, as I talked about earlier, only having 3 employees, there wasn't a lot of roles in the industry back 30 years ago, but now there is. So now let's say staff and advisors. One thing that can happen is if you're really good in some sort of business, there's this stereotype that you're not really good in other areas of your life, especially your family. So I've tried to be very intentional on the staff and on the advisors to have them understand that they're doing this for that. And they're doing this to create these opportunities for their wife, husband, children, partner. At the same time, the freedom, right? That could be used really well or really bad, especially for the FA. So we've tried to complete this, back to the Vince Lombardi, this complete person. And when you get this complete person, you have less problems, you have more stability. And then, by the way, my first thank you every year at all the Barnum events is to the spouse and significant others, because it's a really hard career for the employee and a really hard career for the advisor. And then at Barnum, I would say it's less hard, but hard because I have a standard. So I would expect them to go to their children's thing and then still get their work done. I would expect the advisors to do all the traveling and get to the Little League games and all that, but at the same time grow their practice.
Yeah, I think you're right, and you do a really great job of saying the words thank you, but also doing actions to incorporate the family more into Barnum, because we have to think of partners at home and children and friends as part of the advisor support system. They are a big piece of the advisor's success, and you and Mindee do a really great job of saying thank you via holiday party invitations, the children's holiday party, the barbecue at your house. Things like that are important. And they're fun.
And we I was going to say, first we like to have fun.
Yeah.
So we have fun, but at the same time, we like to have fun with people we truly care about. Yeah. And that's the people we have at Barnum.
Yeah, and all those things are what makes up the culture, and a big, huge piece of why advisors come here and stay here.
Yes.
Staff as well.
100%.
For anybody watching, if you have any questions on Barnum, or if you're interested in a career consultation or learning more about our firm, you can click on the link below.